They say you have not lived until you have been to the Seychelles. It is not just another place, it is another world. 115 pristine islands just like this one, some of Africa's most treasured sites. Now, in 2008, a debt crisis almost brought the Seychellois economy to its knees. Well, this week, Talk Africa is in the Seychelles island. We talked to the President, James Michel, about the remarkable recovery of the Seychellois economy.
You probably have heard about something called SAPs. It is the acronym for a beta prescription the World Bank and IMF prescribed for African countries whose economies were in decline in the 1980s. For many African countries, SAPs were a bitter pill because it was the conditionality the Bretton Woods institutions imposed for their much-needed development loans. But a tiny African nation has cut a different path and shown that with a little domestic ingenuity, IMF economic reform programs work. Welcome to Seychelles, an archipelago of 115 islands in the Western Indian Ocean with an estimated population of 90,000. In the period leading up to 2008 and the 4 years that followed, Seychelles' economy was in pretty bad shape. Tourism, fisheries and financial services, including offshore banking, form the plank of the Seychelles economy. Seychelles is a net importing country. But the island nation is also deeply vulnerable to external shocks. Too often, economies are allowed to slump deeper and deeper into crisis simply because leaders are reluctant to make tough decisions because they are concerned about social unrest. These are the words of President James Michel, whose government made the bold decision to enter into a historic IMF-supported economic adjustment program at a time his country faced imminent economic collapse. Today, Seychelles isn't just out of the woods. There is an important lesson for other African leaders from President James Michel. In order to make fundamental change, leaders must put all political considerations aside. In a record 3 years, Seychelles fixed its economic fundamentals, secured generous debt relief from the Paris Club and other private creditors, and today enjoys rapid and likely sustainable growth.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for giving us your time. Now, 2008, 2009 were rather difficult years for the Seychelles. Now, just take us back a little bit to where you've come from. Where was your country in 2008, 2009? Where is your country today?
In 2008, our country was on the brink because, you know, our economic fundamentals at that time, although it had served us well over the past years, had to change to fit into the global environment. And especially with the difficulties we were having, for example, we could not meet our commitment in the repayment of our debts. The shops were empty, and people had to queue to get some foreign exchange from the bank. The situation was really very bad because the imbalances was very pronounced. And then the economic meltdown in the world created a situation whereby we had to take action. And this is when I decided to boldly change the course of our economic situation by implementing a comprehensive reform. And there we had the assistance of our partners like the IMF, the World Bank, the European Union, and the AFTB. And all these partners assisted us, helped us in implementing this reform. But this reform was owned by Seychelles. You know, it was our reform. And after I announced the hard measures that would follow after the beginning of the reform, I went around the districts. I talked to the people, I consulted them, and I told them that this is the way we have to go. This is the path we have to take because there is a need for change. And change is necessary if we are to survive in this globalized world. And the people listened to me, and the people participated. They understood, and they gave even suggestions. And I think this is the secret of the success of the reform.
Those reforms, though, were seen at the time as tough, as you've just mentioned that. How did you balance the political risks versus the benefits of the oncoming reforms?
Well, there were political risks, including my own political future. But when I balanced everything, I knew that I had to make a drastic change, that I had to take this bold decision. To me, I did not put any political considerations, even knowing that 2 years later we were going to have general elections, and it would be, we were not sure about the outcome following the reforms. But to me, what was important was not political considerations, including my own, but what was important was the welfare of the country and the welfare of the people. And this is why I took that decision, because I put the welfare of the people in front first. And to me, that was the only option that we had for us to be able to change the course of the country.
There is an IMF mission, though, in your country at the moment, reviewing the progress, the economic progress that the Seychelles has made. What is their verdict?
Well, the verdict is that we have done remarkably well. In fact, Seychelles is the country in recent years in the world that has done the most comprehensive and deep reforms that have come out so successfully in 5 years. And the IMF believe that today we have become a model for the world, especially the small island states, the small economies. And now they are asking us to go around the world, to be with them, to participate in meetings, to be able to showcase our achievements here. And we have been successful, but it doesn't mean that we've reached the end. On the contrary, now we have to build on these successes and ensure that we continue to have sustainable macroeconomic development that would ensure that our country continues to develop and survive in this very volatile global system.
The IMF supported policies, though, seems to have worked for the Seychelles, but there's often criticism of the structural adjustment programs, particularly in the 90s, that in African countries they exacerbated poverty. How did it work for you? What aspects of it worked for you? How did you re-engineer their policies to work for the Seychelles?
No, as I said, the Seychelles owned the program, and the IMF, the World Bank, they were our partners. And one thing we insisted, that we have an economic reform program, we have fundamental changes in the way we do things, but we must ensure that we do not lose the benefits we have achieved in terms of the well-being of the people. That is, in the field of education, health, and providing proper housing for the people. This is the key, and I think this has been the fundamentals of our progress, because we have invested in people. We have made our cornerstone of development as a people-centered development, and this has enabled us to provide a good health service to our people. This has provided give us the opportunity to democratize education, to give a good education and equal opportunities to every Seychellois. And today the Seychellois have skills, enough skills to understand what is good for them, skills to be able to participate in the economic development. And this has been our forte, because we have a well-educated people, we have invested in people, they have proper housing, and now they understand where they are, where they have been, where they are, and where they should be aiming to go in the future.
All right. Tourism, though, and the fishing sector have been the mainstay of your economy. Which other sectors, though, are you laying emphasis when attracting private sector investment or when attracting foreign investment?
Well, yes, tourism is the mainstay of our economy. And we have developed a sustainable tourism here in such a way so that it blends in well with our environment. And our treasure here is our environment. This is why we protect it as much as we can. And today we have over 50% of our territory declared as natural reserves. And this has made Seychelles become a unique destination and a sought-after destination. And we have some of the top people with money to spend to come to Seychelles and spend their holidays. So this is something very important for us in the sustainability of our tourism industry, our tourism development. And I think there is a need for us to continue to develop this main pillar of our economy, and at the same time diversifying into other sectors. And fishing is one. And now I am actively promoting the concept of the blue economy, which is not only relevant to Seychelles, but relevant to all countries with coastal territories and islands, especially, where our riches are in the ocean around us, which in future will provide us with the means for us to be able to continue developing and sustain a proper standard of living. But the blue economy, which I am promoting now, will ensure that we have sustainable development of our oceans in terms of fishing, in terms of the environment, in terms of tourism also, which is also an important element of that industry. And we also are looking in the promotion of the exploration of oil, because from studies that have been made so far, we have vast reserves of oil in our economic zone. So these are possibilities for the future. We have also an offshore financial industry, which we have been promoting. So we have diversification throughout in order for us to reduce our vulnerability on only one sector or two sectors of the economy. In this globalized world, it is important, especially as island countries, and bearing in mind the volatility, it is important for us to diversify as much as possible and to be proactive in the actions that we take so that we can mitigate any shortcomings in one sector. And also, for example, when there was the meltdown in Europe, economic problems, which were most of our tourists come from, immediately we diversified to the east, we diversified to South Africa, to Africa, so that we maintain our tourism arrivals here. And this has worked very well for us. And today, even with all the problems of the world, our economy is doing reasonably well.
All right, just give me a little bit insight on the vast reserves of oil that you've just mentioned. Do we know how much quantities you're expecting to look at? Do we know when you will know if you have any commercial viability from the oil?
We have, according to seismic surveys that have been done, there are possibilities of vast reserves of oil and gas. But again, you can never be sure until you actually dig and find out if they are there and what will be the quantity. But the oil companies are very interested, and we are organizing ourselves so that we do the exploration and the exploitation of oil, if there's any, in a very transparent way. We have all the structures in place, all the laws in place, and we have international institutions which have helped us to do that. And we expect one of the first companies interested to start exploration by the end of next year.
You're talking about diversifying your economy because there's been an over-reliance on tourism. But as you mentioned earlier, with the global financial crisis, though, your economy suffered majorly. Are you well on your way to recover, given the fact that tourism has been the mainstay of the economy?
Yes, I think we are well on the way to recovery, and I think we have passed that stage, and our economy now is based on a solid foundation, solid macroeconomic fundamentals. But as I said, with the volatile situation in the world, you cannot be sure what is going to happen, and this is why diversification is very important in many sectors. But so far, our policies in tourism have served us well, which has not affected us that much, even though there were problems around the world. But we are developing our fishing industry at the same time. And food will always be needed by all the countries in the world. So producing fish, which is needed not only for us but for other countries of the world, is again a safe way to develop your market, to develop your diversification. And oil, of course, if it comes in, then it will be an added bonus. But regarding our tourism industry, one element which will serve us well in the future, even though there would be financial problems, is that our upmarket tourism policy, which has always made us be in a position to welcome those people with money. And this is what has happened. Even though other countries suffered, we had these kind of tourists to come here to spend because they have the money to spend. And we have developed our tourism industry, and mainly eco-tourism, sustainable tourism, which has made Seychelles very attractive, always attractive to this clientele.
From 2008 at negative growth to 2012, projections were at 4.3%. What are the midterm and long-term projections of your economy?
Well, I think we have stabilized now, and we're aiming at maintaining that level, but at the same time, we maintain the need to invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure is a key to future development. So this is where we are not neglecting a lot, while maintaining and sustaining the growth factor. We also make sure we continue to invest in infrastructure, and also continue to encourage foreign investment, either in tourism, in fishing, in oil exploration, other services, because Seychelles is geared now with a skilled population, manpower, educated manpower, also to provide more services, which Seychellois and investors also can join in and really make the country progress.
All right, just going back to your experiences in the past, over the last 5 years, and for African countries that may have been or may be in your situation, how can African countries ensure that they can mitigate against the risks of high debt, unmanageable high debt?
Well, the key to any successful development is your people. If you develop a policy of people-centered development, you look after your people, you educate them, you give them good health, you provide them with good shelter, then you provide infrastructure for you to be able to ensure the development, and then you empower your people to participate in development. This is the way you can create economic growth, but at the same time you must have all the correct fundamentals in place. You must at the same time have accountability in your system, transparency, democratic institutions, so that your people can participate and they can own the program that you put in place because they see themselves in it. You cannot impose on people. You only have to work with them, consult with them, and work with them to be able to achieve anything substantial. And I think this is the fundamental element that can really make a country develop and grow. And of course, resources is very important. But if you have resources where the people do not benefit, or you have structures that allow only foreign companies to come and benefit, like unfortunately it has happened in most African countries. The big oil companies, countries that are rich in oil, but the people are poor. Then a few make a lot of money, but generally the population do not benefit. This is not a good recipe for progress, for future progress. So all these fundamentals really have to be put in place for us to be able to have a strong economy. And once you have a strong economy, then it is easier to enter, you have the confidence to enter into a credible partnership with your partners, so that then you can negotiate like debt scheduling, you can negotiate other economic measures that will benefit your country. It's a question of confidence that you can create, that you have to create for you to be able to have that partnership that can help you to move forward.
All right. Your government seems to have put a lot of emphasis on the welfare of the people. And in one area that the Seychelles has also been is celebrated about, to use that word, is in the area of the Millennium Development Goals, where the Seychelles has achieved a number of them in health, education, gender equality, and so forth. How did you do it before the end of the deadline in 2015?
Well, because perhaps because we are small, it is easier, but small is beautiful, but small has its problems as well. When we say we're going to do something, we're going to implement something, and this has been our forte as well, we do it, we push it, and we make it happen. It's the will, the political will, that is important. And once you have the political will and the people is on board, together you can make it happen. And this is what we have done.
All right, Your Excellency, I want to get your view on one other area that is of importance to small island nations here, and that is the question of climate change. And there are reports that some archipelagos may be underwater in 50 to 100 years. The Seychelles may be a different place. How big a concern is that for you?
Well, climate change is a reality. It is a real concern for us, as it is a concern not only for the island states, but for all coastal states. It is a problem. This is why the Seychelles has always been in the forefront of the fight against climate change. In fact, we have established a leadership role in the fight against climate change, and also leading the group of small island states in order to be able to find solutions to mitigate the effects of climate change, and at the same time trying to sensitize the bigger countries, the countries that pollute. But I think we have to realize also that it is not time for us to point fingers, because pointing fingers will not make us achieve anything. What we have to do now is try us small countries which are more vulnerable, which will feel the effect of climate change sooner than others. Like, as you say, some flat archipelagos with flat islands will disappear with sea level rise. But we have to get together, become stronger, a strong voice, and try to talk to the bigger countries so that we can sensitize them and make them realize the dangers, not only for us, but for them too, because climate change will affect everybody. Small countries, large economies. It will take longer, but it will. This Earth is our planet. It's our only home, and we have to preserve it if we want to continue to live on it. And this is the message we continue to spread around. But we must continue to put pressure in international organizations for those countries polluting more to understand that and to take measures to mitigate the effects of climate change.
On a domestic level, though, what is the Seychelles doing to mitigate against the effects of climate change?
Seychelles is doing a lot within the limits of our capacity. we have started to invest in renewable energy. We have wind farms, a small one, but this is the beginning. We have started investing in solar energy. We are looking at other forms of renewable energy as well. And at the same time, we are taking every measure that we can to reduce the emission of carbon. And we are planting more trees. We are investing in developing more our forest, although most of our country are forest, because we want to also to be at the forefront of measures to mitigate the effects of climate change.
All right, Your Excellency, I want to get a final comment from you, though, on the Seychelles' relationships with China, which dates back to, I believe, 1976 there. Where is that relationship today between China and the Seychelles?
China has always been a very sincere friend of Seychelles. China is a country with whom we have shared excellent relations from the very beginning. And I think our relations have grown and it's continued to grow. And there is no reason why it cannot continue to flourish. China has been an excellent partner in our development. China has helped us in many areas in development, in social infrastructure, in economic infrastructure, in institutional infrastructure. China has been a loyal friend, a loyal partner. Again, China has helped us without any preconditions, without any strings attached. And this is really what friends are. And I think that we have all the expectations that we'll continue to develop that friendship. We have exchanged many visits. Myself, I've been to China many times, and the former Chinese president, President Hu Jintao, visited Seychelles, and I think our relations are excellent.
What would you say, though, to potential private investors from China, potential tourists from China?
Well, we have already had some private investors from China, and we continue to welcome them, of course, in other areas where they have not invested in relation to the possibilities that exist here. Of course, genuine investors are always welcome to our shores.
All right, Your Excellency, thank you very much.
Thank you.